Hey, welcome to this update for all my community. I know it's not a big one here on YouTube yet for autism and autism awareness. I want to first apologize. It's been a while since I've actually posted any any videos on autism or anything related, and a lot has gone on in my life here. And so this video right now is actually going to hopefully going to catch everybody up. Okay, I'm going to leave some names out and leave some distinguishing factors out, just because I don't want to put anybody out in the public eye, that doesn't want to be. But at the same time, I think it's really important, especially for my viewers that may have autism or may have a loved one with autism that could be potentially going through the same thing at some point. I really want you all to hear out this story, and I want you to kind of look out for people, for loved ones. If you have a loved one with autism that could be a victim as well, I'd like you to look out for them. Before we go anywhere, though, I do want to point something out. I'm proud of here. This is my new wall art. It's Batman there. So definitely, I'm in an apartment here, and we'll get to that. We'll get to all that. Before, when I was shooting videos, I was actually in a different apartment. Anyway, we'll start from the beginning. So one of the things that I've noticed about myself, and it may play out differently in different people with autism, but with me, they say that people with autism, they don't understand sarcasm. Me, it's not really sarcasm I don't understand. What I think I have a problem with is genuineness, is understanding somebody's genuine attitude, their genuine heart, how they really feel, and that's an issue I've always had a problem with. I'm not really been good at, and I think that got me into a little bit of trouble. So we're gonna start, and I hope that this doesn't change your all's opinion of me, because I'm gonna go into some details here that aren't really that pretty. They're kind of ugly. I'm gonna keep it as family friendly as I can, but I feel like it's only fair when I go into the story of what happened with me, that you understand my side of it. What I did to cause certain, not really cause. Anyway, enough said. Enough disclaimer. So I was in a relationship for almost 7 years, pretty much 7 years. We'll count it as 7 years, right? I was with a wonderful person. She had a lot of really good qualities to her. I'm not going to tell you her name. We're not going to go into that because she definitely deserves her privacy. But I was in a relationship with this person for a long time. I actually met this person back when I was a teenager, and we kind of had that little teenager boyfriend-girlfriend moment, and it didn't last that long because back then I didn't know I was autistic. I didn't know anything about it. So I was just this awkward kid, and I did a lot of things that didn't make sense to people because the people that I was around probably were not autistic, right? So we broke up, and I didn't talk to her for years. I'm talking probably a good, I want to say, good 8 to 9 years at least, maybe even 10. And I got really lonely after my previous relationship. It wasn't like a really serious relationship, the previous one. See, with a lot of my relationships in the past, I've been used. I've been used for my money. I've been used for sex. I've been used for a place to stay. I've been used for people just getting back at their other boyfriend that they wanted to get attention, so they used me for that. I mean, all sorts of things. You name it. I've been used, and that's where the genuineness part of it plays in. I like to look at people and they have a need, or they say they want something and it's for a certain reason. I like to believe them. I like to think that people are honest. People are genuine. That's who they are. And the reality of the matter is it's not like that. It's more, I'd like to still believe it's more like that than it's not, but I don't know, and that's not up to me to decide. What I can say is going through life, I've learned to be more and more judgmental. I guess, I don't know if judgmental is the right word. But anyway, I've learned that you can't always take people at their word. You have to look at how they act and put those two things together and kind of play detective. Kind of like Batman, Batman plays detective. It's kind of like the same thing. You got to kind of play detective with people and try to decipher what they're really after. And sometimes you're going to get it wrong even doing that. And that's a part of what happened to me. So anyway, going back to it, I was lonely after this relationship. I broke up with the girl I was seeing. It was a really, really unstable relationship. She was a drug addict. I was actually trying to help her get off of drugs. And one night she got really drunk with me, and we went out to a club, and we were hanging out, and she'd gone out and started dancing with somebody when I went to the bathroom, and I came back and she was grinding on somebody, and I was like, that is ugh. Like, I was so upset with her because I was like, that's kind of cheating, That's not how you treat somebody you're with. You don't, if you want to dance, you dance with them. You don't go out and grind on some other dude. But she did, and so it really upset me. And she and I got into a discussion. I wasn't the type to yell. I don't yell whenever I get upset. I do let somebody know, hey, I'm really upset with you. This really offended me. This isn't right. And so we had that discussion. And her being drunk and an addict and not knowing how to handle herself right, she punched me square in the nose. She didn't break my nose, luckily. Nobody's ever broken my nose, which is great. But she punched me really hard in the face. And back then, I'd never had that experience happen. Nobody's ever been violent towards me, except for whenever I was in school and bullies, But no actual relationship has anybody been violent. So I kicked her out and I said, you got to go, and didn't turn back, didn't even try, didn't even think anything of it. Well, after that point, months went by and nobody was talking to me, like, as far as females go. I didn't have any luck at the bars, and I know bars, I've learned, aren't a great place to meet people. Please don't go and meet somebody at a bar. It's a horrible place to meet somebody. It really is. But none of that was happening, and I started feeling really lonely, and I started thinking about my past, and I started thinking about past relationships I was in, and I remembered this person in that relationship back whenever I was a teenager. And I was like, I wonder what she's doing. She was really sweet. I weirded her out when I was a teenager, and I'm not as weird now, I thought. I probably am. But anyway, so I reached out to her on Facebook. I found her through a mutual friend, and this is where it gets funny. I knew the mutual friend's name. I knew her first name. I didn't know her last name. So I went through her friend, the mutual friends on Facebook, and all the friends with the same first name, and I found her that way. And I sent her a message. I said, hey, this is Sam from back when we were kids. Obviously, I said more than that, but I'm not going to give away any more personal identifiers because I don't want people going and finding this person and harassing her. She doesn't deserve that. But I sent her a message and I was like, hey, if you remember me and you're willing, I'd love to reconnect and catch up. It's been a long time, and I definitely I could always use more people to talk to. Friendly kind of thing, right? Well, we started talking, and sure enough, she had just gotten out of a really horrible relationship. I don't want to go into details with that because it's not my place to, but it was to the point to where it was psychologically damaging. And before that, she was in another psychologically damaging relationship with her son's father, and both those were really, really tough. Like both those, in my opinion, if I had gone through them, I would have needed therapy, like a lot of therapy, to get to a more even level again, to be able to um, date somebody new. But needless to say, she was in a rough spot and feeling kind of like lonely and depressed too. And so we started hanging out, and one thing led to another, and we decided to be together. She and I believe she and I both kind of fell in love with each other. Um, at least I know I did. I fell hard, and what was funny was initially it wasn't it wasn't planned. I didn't plan that. I had feelings for her all along, but I didn't know that it was going to be as deep as it was. I didn't know I was going to fall as hard as I did. Now, going back to, well, now let's go further, and then I'll backtrack. So I'm sorry ahead of time. This is going to kind of jump back and forth, but it's to give you context and to explain exactly where I'm coming from, so you can learn from it. I'm not. I'm working on not being ashamed of who I was. I'm a lot of the things that I'm going to talk about. I no longer am like. I no longer do. But it's important. It's important to learn because especially as an autistic person, we tend to have these moments where we easily fall into patterns. We easily fall into habits, and not always are our habits healthy. And that's basically the message I'm going to send with this. But anyway, so we started dating. Her and I did. She had an issue, a living issue with her house where she was living with her dad, and then some things happened, and that was no longer an option. So I didn't want her to not have anywhere to go. She didn't have a job at that point that was really reliable enough to give her a solid income to be able to get her own place. I was living with my parents, but my parents are really, really awesome people too. In the way in the same way that I am, they're kind of like me. We have big hearts and we care about people. We don't want to see people struggle. We don't want to see people suffer, especially people we care about. And like I said, I fell hard pretty quick for her, and and her son, which actually I still consider him my son to this day. But um, anyway, so I had her and her son move in with me, and it was awesome. It was awesome having them live with us. She was an amazing cook, and in the beginning, she would cook all sorts of different dishes. She would cook dirty rice, and that was like something I've never had really the same ever from past experiences, and I don't think I'll ever have it going forward. I don't think I'll ever be able to replicate the kind of food that she made. It was delicious. I bet other people make good food, but not. I don't know if I'd say it's on par with hers. But anyway, so we started hanging out and living together. She had some habits that I didn't really agree with, and I'm not the type then. I am now, but I wasn't the type then, to be honest. I wanted to say and do whatever it took to make her happy, and so I would let things slide. I'm sorry, there was a big old banging noise outside. It distracted me, but I would let things slide that weren't really my thing, right? And it would cause some resentment in me. I didn't even notice it at first, but it would cause me to be resentful, and because of that, I would start not being as kind, I guess, in the way I would respond to certain things when I would be upset. In the beginning, whenever I'd get upset about something that didn't even have anything to do with her, I would try really, really, really hard to not let her see that I was upset or to not take it out on her or not even seem like I was taking it out on her, right? Like, you know how it is. Sometimes you get really upset and somebody's talking to you and they had nothing to do with you being upset, but because of you being upset, you have a tone in your voice. Well, that happened a lot more frequently, I should say, once the resentment started building. And because I would be like that, it started to kind of deteriorate our relationship and our closeness and our bond. And because of that, she would have these responses back that aren't very kind, and it would kind of trigger her in a way that she would respond unhealthy. And so we would start having these fights where we would disagree on something, and I would calmly be talking to her, and she would start screaming at me. That's how she would cope with it, based on previous experiences with previous relationships and interactions with people, and how she learned to react to things. And based on my childhood, based on what I went through, abuse wise, which we're not going to go into, and this video would be way too long. I don't respond well to people yelling at me. I don't, and that's why I try very hard to never have to yell. Now, in this video, I will admit, in this relationship, it came a point to where I started yelling back. But I will say this too, it wasn't as bad as what I experienced from her. And because of that, the relationship started feeling rocky. It didn't feel as stable as it did in the beginning. And because of that, I fell back into a habit that I developed years before. Now, years before, I dated this girl, and it was a girl I met in a bar. I used to DJ for this bar downtown in Louisville, where I live, and I met this girl. And warning sign number one. This is something, a tangent. I'm going to try to keep it short, but I want to make sure that I say it because it's very important. If you meet a girl who has a boyfriend and she dumps her boyfriend for you, like on the spot, like, and this is something. It's not necessarily a runaway type of thing, but it's something to keep note of. It's a red flag. It's kind of like, okay, well, how loyal is this person? You know, they came to this place with this dude that's supposedly their boyfriend, they care about, and now all of a sudden they just up and leave him for some guy they just met at a bar. It's kind of like one of these. But in the moment when it happened, believe me, in the moment when it happened, it made me feel like I was on top of the world. I was Mr. Cool, you know. So anyway, we started dating, her and me, back, and this is still back. This is a different girl than current girl we're talking about, but it provides context. So we started dating, and she went to school in Murray, Kentucky, which, if you don't know anything about Louisville and Murray and all that, Murray is a few hours away from Louisville. So it's kind of like a long-distance relationship that we had, right? And so she would be in Louisville on the weekends and whatnot, and then the summers and winter break and stuff, and she'd stay with me. I even got an apartment with her best friend, who became a good friend of mine, and her best friend's boyfriend at the time. And that's a whole nother story that we can go into at some point. But the important part of this is when she was in Murray, Kentucky, and I didn't find this out until later on, but when she was in Murray, Kentucky, she would be telling people there she was single, that she didn't have a boyfriend. And I, on the other hand, was told by her that it's important that we communicate all the time because we're in a relationship and she misses me. So every night I would call her before I went to bed, to tell her good night and see how her day was, all that. Text her throughout the day and stuff like that. Didn't know anything was up. Seemed all normal to me. Come to find out that the reason she did that was because she wanted to make sure that I was being loyal to her, but she was being very, very disloyal or unloyal to me. And something else that I've learned about people is the more strict they get with you, the more you need to be worried about them. Because people do not like the idea of bad stuff happening to them. But they do bad stuff to other people, and then they start feeling guilty. And they're like, oh God, if I'm doing this to him, he's probably doing this or worse to me. I better make sure that he's on par with what I expect from him. Um, Sorry, my computer locked up. This is how long this video's been. Hang on, I'm unlocking it so I can make sure that everything's in frame. Okay, we're good. So it's a 20-minute video. Hopefully this video is still entertaining. Smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you're still watching. Anyway, so we were in this relationship, right? And I was being loyal. I was calling her all the time at night, calling her and texting her and sending her flirty things all the time. Miss you, all that, right? Well, come to find out, years went by of this happening. Nobody spoke up. We had mutual friends. Nobody said anything. Then finally, I get this phone call from a friend that's actually her roommate in Murray. And she's like, I am completely tired of not saying anything. This has gone on for too long, and you're a good guy, and you deserve to know this. And so she tells me that the whole time, basically, that we were together, she was telling other people that we weren't together down in Murray and hooking up with people, sleeping with people, basically. And when I heard that, it kind of, I think something in my brain about relationships and all that kind of broke. And I felt like, okay, well, I really like this girl. I don't really want to have to go through finding somebody else. But at the same time, if she's going to be doing this to me, I guess I'm free to do this to her. And so I started joining dating sites and calling chat lines and stuff like that. And basically cheated on her too. We both were cheating on each other. It's a horrible, unhealthy relationship that eventually ended. Sorry, I have an itch. But going forward, in all my relationships after that, if I ever felt like the relationship was unstable, it kind of triggered and kicked this thought in my head, okay, well, you need to look after you. So I would then go and get on the chat lines, get on the dating sites, and look for somebody that could be there if my current situation failed. And because of that, I took that into the relationship currently that I was in. And when all the screaming and the fighting happened, I started to reach out and try to find somebody else. Well, this is years later. This is, we'll say, well, she found out years later. This started, I'd say, about 6 months into the relationship. And it went on. It was like one of these situations where if the relationship felt good, I felt good and I was okay. I didn't need that. But if we had a period of time where we were really unstable, we were fighting a lot, that would be my go-to. I would go right to that, right? Because that was safe. That was my safety net. And it was horrible. It's a horrible thing to do, and I hope you do not take this and say, well, that sounds logical, I'll do that. Don't. There's much healthier ways to handle the things that were going on. Anyway, fast forward 3 years later, she finds out. She's like, what the heck? Why am I with you if you're going to be cheating on me like this? And I never met anybody I talked to on those lines or chat rooms or dating sites. Never met any of them face to face. It was all purely a digital and phone type of interaction, but still there were images exchanged that were very inappropriate. Messages exchanged, same thing, very inappropriate, of sexual nature, which was not good. It makes for a really horrible image of yourself whenever you lower your standards to that level and you do something like that. You should never do that. And it's taken me a long time in therapy to learn that, right? And I'm not perfect. I've still done some things that I probably shouldn't have. But point is, she finds out. realize, oh gosh, I really hurt her feelings. She really does care about me. She's just got issues she's struggling with. And so I'm like, what can I do to fix this? And she says, you need to get therapy because that's not normal to do that kind of thing. And even if you never met any of those people, I need to know that you're going to be done with this and that we can move on and I can trust you. And you need to learn how to rebuild trust, so you need to go to therapy. So I start going to therapy and I start talking to a therapist. Now, two things happen whenever I start going to this therapist. Number one, he definitely validates her concerns and says this is not a healthy way to act. But number two, he also looks at me and says, this is not a good relationship for you to be in. Why are you with this person? And I don't really have a good answer for him, you know, or according to him. I say, because I love her, because we've been together for so long. We've been together over 3 years now. It's a long relationship. None of those are good reasons. And it takes more than love to make a relationship work. So fast forward, and what we find out, I'm going to therapy. I'm questioning my relationship more, and I'm questioning it more with her in a healthy way. But she's still not seeking any therapy on her end, which was one of the big problems. Because yes, I was the one that messed up. I was the one that was going outside the relationship and emotionally cheating. And that was horrible and that was wrong. And I definitely deserve and need therapy for that to not happen anymore. I agree with that. But her unhealthy behavior was not deemed okay and acceptable because of what I did. It still was there and it was still causing issues in the relationship. And that she didn't pursue because she blamed it all on me. And so I was going to therapy, getting healthy, asking healthy questions, trying to set healthy boundaries, and all it did to her was make her feel like, wait a minute, this therapist is against me and just trying to push us apart. He's not a good influence on you. Me trusting her, I was like, you know what? If you think so, then I mean, I don't think I'll get back on the internet. I don't think I'll get back on those chat lines. I think I'm good to go now. I'll just stop seeing him because I love and care about you and I want our relationship to work. And so that's what I did. And it was a mistake. I shouldn't did it because this particular therapist was really an expert in trauma and dealing with trauma, which trauma has a big part in how we build our habits. And one of my habits was very unhealthy. It was going and seeking somebody else whenever relationships started to feel like they were crumbling beneath me. And so that habit really wasn't worked on that much. And the trauma that built up to me trying to seek out other arrangements once I felt unstable was never addressed fully and was never fixed and worked through. So I got rudimentary treatment. So I had very little skills. Still didn't know I was autistic at that point either. So relationship goes on. We have I want to say a good year, maybe year and a half where nothing happens. I'm doing pretty good. Then the fighting starts again. She starts getting more and more aggressive. And one night she's so upset with me that we're sitting in the car. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. She's sitting in the driver's seat. And she does one of these motions on my head. And my head bangs against the glass like this of the car, and it's really like it felt like she was punching me in the head. It didn't feel like she was doing this, but that's what she said she did. So I'm going off of that. But anyway, that throws me into another panic. Like, holy crap, this relationship is really deteriorating now. I really need to find myself something safe. And so I was like, but I don't want to go back into into what I was doing. So I started out by talking to a friend, a female friend that I used to. I never dated her, but I used to always kind of have a thing for her. Whenever I was a kid, I didn't notice that it wasn't in my head. Whenever I started talking to her, all I remembered was we were good friends. She could give me good advice. So I started talking to her about the stuff, and she, of course, was like, "That's horrible. You shouldn't be with somebody like that. That's nobody should ever do that. Nobody should ever put their hands on you in a relationship." And I was like, "I know." And so the more I talked to her, the more I wanted to leave the relationship. And then the more I wanted to thought about leaving the relationship, the more I was like, "Well, I need to find somebody else so I'm not lonely." And that kind of led me back down the same road. And I went down the same road and was doing the same things, but I was trying to be a little bit more sneaky about it, cover it up more. And she started to feel like something was happening, like I was doing something again behind her back. So what she decided to do was start questioning me on stuff. And the stuff she was questioning me on was innocent stuff. It didn't have anything to do with what I was doing, but it was the only thing she could question me on, because she didn't have any of the other stuff because I was hiding it very well. And so when she would question me on it, I would still sound very defensive because I was trying to defend myself because I knew I was doing stuff I shouldn't have been, but she just wasn't on the right track. And so we fought a lot over this. I'm talking, she broke some of my stuff. She got really, really violent at times and threw stuff at me. She hit me a few times. She broke my necklace, and she broke my bracelet. Funny thing is, she also made those. But all that happened, right? And it was, the more that happened, the more I would act out. And I never met anybody in the whole relationship. Never met one person face to face in public or anything, or private, anything. Never met them. It was always online or on the phone. But I started this new job. When I started this new job, one of the other things I tried to be better at, because I've never been great at, is my hygiene, shaving and showering, brushing my teeth, that sort of thing. I never was ever really that great at it. I always had moments where I'd be okay and I'd be good, and then there'd be other moments where I would slip up for a week or two and not shower and not shave. And so I was trying to be better about it because I really liked this job. It was actually a job in my career field, and I was about to graduate with my bachelor's, and I got hired on before that point. So I was really proud of this job, and I felt really good about it, and I wanted to impress them. So I started showering more, started shaving more, started putting on cologne, I started brushing my teeth. All of these things are also classic signs that if you think somebody's cheating on you, that's a good classic sign of that. Now, that wasn't my intention. I wasn't trying to impress anybody, any females at that job or anything like that. It all had to do with me trying to impress the employer. But it kind of lined up with what her fear was and what her thoughts were. So she started getting really, really, really suspicious. And we had one really horrible fight about a girl that worked in an actual different company than me, but in the same building. Like, it was one of those strip type buildings where there's like multiple businesses. And I came walking out the door, and she came walking out a separate door at the same time, triggering my lady at the time to think that, wow, why are y'all trying to go out different doors? Like I'm stupid or something, and I don't know that something's going on. Didn't even realize that girl, I didn't even know who she was talking about whenever she confronted me on it, because I didn't work with her. She was in a different office altogether, a different business. But because of that, because of also one of the days that she was staying somewhere else, dog sitting, because she would dog sit, I went out to eat at a pricier fast food place, so it costed a little bit extra. And she found the receipt for that, and she thought, okay, well, I took somebody out to eat, all that. She started really questioning me. She's like, I want to see the bank. I want to see your bank accounts. I want to see this. I want to see that. And I'm like, you don't need to. I'm not doing anything. There's nothing going on at work. I'm going to work and I'm trying to look good because I want to impress my boss. I want to be able to make sure I could get hired on permanently. Because at this point, I was working through a temp agency. So they don't have to hire me permanent. They could just work me for the 90 days or whatever long that a contract is for, and then be like, nope, we don't want him. So I was trying to be a really, really big asset to the company. But through all this, she got really, 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 really triggered. And I believe there's some mental health issues going on there that we won't really go into because I'm not a mental health expert. But she really went off on the deep end. And at one point, because I wouldn't budge on the bank account because I was like, there's nothing in there that you're going to see that's going to point to anything inappropriate, because I didn't pay anybody any money for anything or anything like that. It was, to me, it was like, why are you doing this? This is useless information. I'm just going to have to explain all these different transactions to you that I don't even remember, but they're all with us, like her and me together. And it was irritating to me. So I didn't want to do that. Well, because of that, and because of what was going on in her own head and her own decisions that she made, and I want to make sure that that's pointed out really, 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 really strongly, that her decisions that she made led up to this. Like, she made these decisions on her own free will. I didn't force them. Nobody can force anybody to do this. But she took a handful of Tylenol PMs and she slit her wrists in front of me. And when she did that, I called the cops. I called the police and 911 and the ambulance, and I was like, hey, my fiance just slit her wrists and took a bunch of Tylenol PMs. I'm really worried about her, because she'd also ran out into my field, in my parents' field. We had 5 acres, my parents do. And she ran out into the field. And because of that, they showed up, right? And they took her and they put her into a hospital for 72 hours. She did not talk to me at all. She refused to speak to me. She blames me to this day for her having to go to the hospital, for basically me saving her life. I get blamed for that, and that's fine. I mean, I understand. But going forward, that really hit me. And I was like, at the time, I was like, did I do this? Is this my fault? And I went to therapy again. I went and found another therapist, and I talked to her about everything, and I was a wreck. I was an emotional wreck. I felt like the lowest person on the planet. I felt like, how could I have been such a horrible person that somebody wouldn't want to be alive anymore because of me? And it took a long time for me with this therapist before I felt like my fiance at the time, made her own decision to do that, and it wasn't my fault that she decided to do that. I did actions that hurt her feelings, that made her feel bad, because they were betrayal, and they were horrible actions, and they weren't right, but they weren't the reason. She made her own choice there. That was the reason. So she's in there for 5 days, and then she gets out, and she's staying with a friend, not talking to me. And then finally she starts talking to me again because she misses me, and I miss her. And I tell her I'm going to therapy, and I tell her I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to make you feel uncomfortable. Still, again, I'm not admitting that I'm doing any of that other stuff. And she finds it. I don't even know how she finds it, but she finds some of the stuff that I was doing and loses it on me. And we're talking, and I'm like, I'm going to therapy. I'm trying to figure it all out. I was going to tell you about it once I figured it out, which was the truth. I was going to be honest and disclose everything with her. But I didn't get to do that. She found out. And the fact that she found out that I did all that stuff, and the fact that in her mind I forced her to try to attempt suicide and get thrown into a lunatic bin, or whatever she called it. It's not a lunatic bin, it's a mental hospital. And that's a good place for people that need it. But because of all that, she she got really upset with me again, and it took a long time for us to kind of get back to a level where we could get along. I'm just unlocking my computer. Bear with me. Um, but yeah, so we got back to I wouldn't say a great relationship, but we got back to one where it was starting to we were starting to try to rebuild trust together, right? And at this point, this therapist that I was seeing said that she wanted me to go get tested um, at this place called Centerstone in Louisville. They specialize in autism. I didn't know why she wanted me to go get tested. I started talking to her, and I was like, okay, well, because my fiance and I, we were talking, and she's like, she hasn't diagnosed you with anything yet, and you've been seeing her for quite some time. You should get a diagnosis so you know what's going on. And so that's what led to her telling me she wanted me to go get tested before officially telling me anything. I was like, okay, that makes sense. What are you, just curious, what do you want me to get tested for? And she said Asperger's. Well, Asperger's used to be a diagnosis. Now it's not. Now it's known as Autistic Spectrum Disorder Level 1, or high functioning autism. And hearing this, it kind of scared me at first, because the only thing that I knew about autism was the same thing everybody else knows. Rain Man, right? A guy that can't really talk and function in society, but is really smart with like math and blackjack and stuff like that. And so it kind of made me feel like, oh God, autism. Oh. But as I looked into it on my own, I was like, you know what? It's not anything to do with like Rain Man. Rain Man is like a minute like minority in the whole autism spectrum. And it's a spectrum. It's a big spectrum, broad spectrum, right? But anyway, started looking into it, and then I was like, a lot of this stuff fits with who I am. I think there's some merit here. So I scheduled an appointment. I got in there, I did my testing, and the whole process took, I want to say, 3 weeks to a month. And then I was diagnosed with autism spectrum level 1. The interesting thing was I was also diagnosed with borderline personality disorder traits. Not the full disorder, but traits. And that had to do with all the self-destructive behavior and habits that I had built. Now, because of all that, I went back to my diagnosis, and I actually looked for a new therapist, because my fiance at the time didn't really agree with everything this therapist was saying, didn't feel like she was being fair to her, which in retrospect, looking back on it, it doesn't matter if your therapist is fair to your fiance, your friend, your mom, your dad, your grandma, whoever. As long as they're fair to you and they back you up, that's all that matters. As long as they're working on you, they don't need to be fair to anybody else. It's none of anybody else's business, really, what you talk about in therapy. But at the time, like I said, I was in a mode of I want to do whatever it takes to make her happy and to show her I actually do love her and care about her. So I found a new therapist, and it actually worked out. This guy was really, really cool. He actually dealt with autism a lot. Now, fast forward, trying to get back on track here. It's 43 minutes. We've been on this for a while. So going forward, see this therapist for quite some time. I actually end up switching therapists 2 more times, and finally get to my therapist I'm at now. Throughout that process, though, her and I are still fighting. She's gone through a lot of trauma. She's trying to go through therapy, and another big thing happens. I get in a car accident, a really bad car accident. My car's totaled. I'm torn up. I didn't break anything, but my neck and my back is just screwed up completely. I get a lawyer. I'm going through the whole lawsuit thing, which is a whole other video we'll go into. But throughout this whole process, it puts a lot of strain on my parents, because we're still staying with my parents at this point. And so my parents get really stressed at times, and some fighting goes on. And needless to say, we end up not being able to stay there. And so we're staying in a hotel. I'm living off the money I'm getting from my lawsuit for lost wages because I'm not able to work. Um, and that money's getting really thin, and we're running out of ideas as to what to do. Her friend, one of her friends from high school, steps up and invites us to come stay with her. We go down there for about a month. It doesn't work out. This two people, in my opinion, she's a lot like my fiance was at the time, and so they clash, they fight, and so we get thrown out on Christmas. On Christmas weekend, we get thrown out, and so she has her dad drive all the way down to where we are. We're about an hour and a half, 2 hours out of Louisville. Pick us up and take us to stay with him in his one-bedroom trailer. And so we're staying there, and we're still trying to rebuild our relationship and everything and get along. We're Ubering places because we don't have a car. I get a job. I get a really good job. I'm still at that job. I'm starting to work there. I work a lot of overtime. I get a whole lot of overtime in, and this is in January that I get this job. Well, we're staying with her dad through January, February, March, and then in the middle of April, we get into an apartment. And we're living at this apartment, and we're still fighting. She's still having these moments where she's having trust issues with me. Like, she'll be asleep. I'll get up before she does in the morning, and I'll go and I'll be in the bathroom, and she'll wake up and cough, and I'll flush the toilet at the same time, and she thinks that I'm doing something inappropriate in there. And so we're fighting about all this stuff, and it's getting really bad. It's getting really violent and really horrible because obviously I'm not doing anything at this point. I don't know if I said that, but I'm not. I've made a solid commitment to myself in our relationship at that point that I'm not going to do that. No matter how bad our relationship gets, I'm not going to do that. I'll just talk about it in therapy and figure out what to do. And so that's what I'm doing. But it's getting violent and really dangerous for me. So one weekend, and this is coming up to more recently, one weekend in January of this year, she comes at me with a knife and says, "I'm just gonna effing kill you." And luckily she realizes how upset she got and how dysregulated it is and how it wasn't good. And so rather than stay to that commitment of coming after me and potentially stabbing me to death, she goes into the bathroom with the knife and says, "No, I'll just kill myself. I'm done with this." And she had been threatening over and over and over again throughout our relationship after that first time to do that, but she's never done it, never tried again. So I didn't take her that serious. Instead, what I did is I left. I left the apartment, got a few of my things, and I left. And I went to my parents' house and I said, I gotta stay here with you all for a while because she's totally lost it. I can't live there anymore. I don't feel safe. And so I stayed there, but I communicated with her and I was like, I need you to go get therapy. I need you to really take this serious because what just happened is not normal and it's not safe and it's not acceptable in this relationship. And if you want to be with me, you're gonna get that taken care of. Well, instead of going and doing that, she decided to bicker with me and to fight me on it and to tell me that, oh, well, if I hadn't done this or if I did this, then this wouldn't happen. Well, because of that and her not taking things seriously, I decided that this relationship really wasn't worth it. And so I started talking to other people again. Now, that didn't start out like that. What it started out as is she started being very bickery with me like that, right? And so in my mind, I was like, why is she being like that? she must be trying to find somebody else. And this is where the twisted mind comes in. Like I said, people that do bad things, they automatically jump to somebody else doing bad things. Now, I hadn't done anything yet, but I believe now, after going to therapy, that it was my brain's way of kind of convincing me and twisting it into, well, it wouldn't be bad if you went on there just to look for her. And it got me in there. It's kind of like the alcoholic being like, well, I could go to a bar and listen to music and drink a Coke. No. You can't really do that. And I don't mean to offend any alcoholics or anything, recovering alcoholics, who are, or belittle the effort y'all put in or struggle y'all go through. But I'm just trying to paint a picture that's understandable. So, needless to say, I start talking to people, but I'm like, you know what, this isn't me. I'm gonna stop. And I text her and I tell her about it. I'm like, look, this is what happened. I'm sorry. I didn't want to lie to you though. I don't want you to think that I'm hiding anything. This is why I felt like I did it, and I explained it all to her, how I thought she might have been on there doing that or whatever. And she said that her argumentativeness was just because she didn't agree with everything I said, and she also had been distant, and she said that was because she was trying to figure it out, and how to fix this, and how to fix what she did. And though in my mind at the time, I took that as word, and I was like, okay, well, that's cool. I understand. And she's like, now it's a lot harder because now I don't trust you over there. I don't trust you to not cheat on me over there. And now I have to worry about that and me and all that. And so she was talking about how big of a struggle it was and was really upset about it and kept trying to convince me to come back. And I was like, of course not. You haven't changed anything. You haven't had any therapy to change. And I'm not coming back to a danger zone like that. No. And so we kind of went back and forth for a while. And then I learned that she had reached out to an ex about a month after that whole last scenario happened. And she was reaching out to the ex because she didn't think I was going to come back and she would have to pay all the bills herself. And she was just trying to have a friend to be a roommate. Anyway, that turned out to be something a lot more, I think, than what she ever will admit to. And it, of course, made me really uncomfortable that another dude came and stayed in my apartment because she had him stay there and he was there for a while. And he had brought drugs into my apartment, which was a big no-no. And he had touched my stuff. That's something that I have never been okay with people doing. It's coming into my apartment and touching my stuff without my permission. Now, I'm not some egotistical jerk who, if you come into my apartment, you're not going to be able to sit down anywhere or get a drink of water or anything like that. It's just I want to know, I don't want you coming in and like going through my closet, that kind of stuff. I'm talking he rearranged all my stuff in the apartment because he's a drug addict and that's what they do. Anyway, long story short, I make the healthy decision to cut ties with her and the relationship. Because in my mind, she's not doing what she needed to be able to get better. And it caused me to not feel safe. And yeah, I had my mistakes too that I made. And they were bad. And I am still going to therapy to sort all those out and fix it. But I didn't deserve that type of behavior from her either. And so it was a toxic relationship all around. Both sides played a part. And so I left that relationship. And throughout that whole time was my YouTube. That's why on YouTube I was very, very absent. And I apologize for that because I know there's tons of stuff that I can teach and share about my life. And hopefully this video, even though it's long, it's about 54 minutes now and we're wrapping it up. Hopefully it helps shed some light on somebody and helps them with what they're going through. But Yeah, I had a lot of issues that happened that caused me to, I had to get that taken care of. Now I'm in a new apartment. I'm living alone for the first time, and we're going to discuss all this, how to live alone and be okay. Because believe me, I'm learning as I go how to do that. Um, I definitely am excited to be back on YouTube, and I'm going to be more consistent now with my videos. And I thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please understand some things here. We all make mistakes. We all have problems that we go through. We all have decisions we make that aren't good. It's not about blaming yourself and beating yourself up over these decisions. It's about learning from them and moving past them. I I came out of a very abusive relationship with this person. A lot of my friends have very negative feelings towards this person because of that. I don't. I understand that there's something else going on that's caused this person to be like that, because I also have experienced a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of good feelings from this person to know that they're not an evil person. And I wish nothing but the best for them, and I hope to God that they get help for their issues and they can live a happier life, because they deserve it. Everybody deserves to be happy. Everybody deserves to live a happy life. And so I'm going to cut this video off here. Once again, if you've made it this far, thank you. You are so awesome. Thank you for listening. And we will definitely hit up some other topics here in the coming days and weeks. So subscribe if you haven't. Hit like on there and leave me a comment. If you've gone through anything similar, leave me a comment. Let me know how it went for you. Let me know what you did. If you think I could have did something different or could have explained something better, leave a comment. Let me know. I love my comments. I love my community, and I really want to help as many people as I can. That's the whole point of this video. So definitely let me know what you think. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.